What is going on out there, peeps? All right, let's get into what's going on in Iraq because there's some very interesting big moves happening that definitely will have an effect on the dinar, in my opinion. All right, let's get into that here just a second. A quick reminder, everybody, if you're thinking about buying precious metals, give our friends over there at Money Metals Exchange a consideration. The link is down in the description. If you are a first time buyer, and you spend more than $100 on precious metals, use promo code PIMPY, P-I-M-P-Y, and get a free ½ ounce of silver. For the rest of you that keep going back and returning to buy from now until December 15th, if you return to buy precious metals from Money Metals Exchange and you spend more than $200, you will get $10 back when you use promo code PEEPS. PEEPS. All right, you guys, I love that promo code, by the way. So go over there. The price is already more than competitive, and there's all kinds of sales going on. But get an additional $10 back when you use promo code PIMPS. Peeps, not Pimps. Peeps. Sorry about that. But anyways, look, I'm over here on Twitter. Come join me there. I'm also on Parler. And I got a big wave of people that join me over there on Parler. So I appreciate that. As you guys know, I think if the only reason why a lot of us, I think, are on Twitter is we're just that's our way to get our communications from President Trump. But if you ever just left outright from Twitter and went over to Parler, I think you would see a huge drop in the millions of people leaving Twitter. But nonetheless, we're still here. You could join me on MeWe as well. I have my group, The Hidden Things in Front of Your Eyes. I started backing it up in 2018 just in case, and now look, it actually was a reason. I'm a political prisoner on Facebook. Anyways, let's get into what's going on. If you guys want to come join me, do so. All the links for all the different websites that I'm on are in the description. Again, I'm on LBRY as well. It's just like YouTube. It really is, except for there's no censoring there. So let's get into some of this big news because it definitely is interesting. So Iraq is preparing a plan to join the World Trade Organization in early 2021. I remember there being talk about, and this is in early 2019, that Iraq as well as Vietnam, their accession into the World Trade Organization was being expedited. But as you guys know here, dealing with Iraq, when we got to about, the end of the year in 2019, all heck broke loose and the doo-doo hit the fan. And sure enough, the current prime minister resigned and everything kind of was up in the air. So their accession just kind of halted at the moment. Well, now it's being expedited. And why this is a big deal is, see, and again, this is just in my opinion, in order for Iraq to really get out there and be one of the big players on the international scene when it comes to trade, they're really going to have a better and more competitive currency. So the dinar rate can't be this low, or I think it would really hurt them. Well, it wouldn't hurt them when it comes to, of course, exporting goods if they had a lot of goods to export, but they really don't. I'm not saying that they don't have any. They do. This would make them more than competitive. They would have a competitive edge depending on what it is they have available to export. But importing would really hurt them because, you want to have more purchasing power so that your country can buy the material that it needs to really rebuild its country. And in order for them to really be competing on the trade field, they're going to have to find a way to get up there with their currency to be as competitive as the other countries' currencies. I would imagine even with China manipulating their currency, Vietnam manipulating their currency, Iraq's value is really, really low. And I always said that once they started going up and got onto the World Trade Organization, you would most likely see a change in their currency rate. Down here is talking about the joining of the organization has positive repercussions in the long run, as Iraq may not directly reap its fruits, but there will be a strong, integrated Iraqi economy capable of competing with the economies of the member states of the organization in general and the economies of neighboring countries in particular. Okay, so this is going to be big because it helps the economies. You know how it goes. If the Iraq has a strong economy, it makes their currency strong. All right. Less people or more people going to work, less people on entitlement programs, more people out there paying taxes. There's less reliance on oil. That might be expedited here real quick because they might not have a choice depending on what goes on here. So again, this is great news for them. I really want to see this happen for them. Getting them on a World Trade Organization will really help Iraq grow, and this affects both the currency as well as our shares on the ISX. Ali to the economy news. We are working on the independence of government banking departments. Okay, so before we talked about this, we know that the Central Bank of Iraq is separate than the government. They're supposed to be making their own decisions. So there's a lot of changes taking place with the banking sector. They're really trying to grow it and expand it. In my opinion, they're expecting big growth as they should, and so they want to make sure that they're ready for this to happen. But in order for that to happen, they really have to be independent from the administration, and it looks like that's what they're doing, is they're lining up their ducks for whatever's coming. Headed by the Minister of Finance, the Association of Private Banks is organizing a meeting for the banking sector. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Again, they're still working on improving their banking infrastructure. All of a sudden, if you notice in the news lately, that there has been a lot more focus on that once again. Now, we know they implemented a lot of technology that was supposed to help them be more, the technology that they had before was so outdated that it made it really easy for people to really be corrupt and commit a lot of crimes, stealing the money from the Iraqi people. These changes in technology not only helps them to reduce this type of behavior, but also puts them online more with what's going on with the other banks around the world. This is very important in order for them to do a lot of business together. So the infrastructure is being worked on. This whole thing talks about that. And so again, right over here, it talks about that. He stressed that the Ministry of Finance, through the white papers, will reform the financial policies, monitor the economy, and change it to keep pace with the global economy, explaining that the political decisions that were taken in the past have affected the economy. But he does talk about something over here that I think is really interesting right here. He noted that the Ministry of Finance is seeking to offer bonds worth $3 to $5 billion to citizens in the two currencies, the dinar and the dollar, and we expect private and government banks to buy them. He pointed out that the exchange rate of the dinar against the dollar will be fixed when the bonds are issued in order to avoid any losses in the purchase of the bonds by banks or citizens. Now, why this is interesting is this: if the citizens went to have an option on what it is they wanted the money to be in, whether it's the dinar or the dollar, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say about 99.9 of them would prefer to have the dollar, because the dollar is stronger than the dinar. So what does that mean? They're going to have to fix the rate, in my opinion, of the dinar so they can be competitive. Again, when people go in to make that choice, you really want them to choose the dinar. You want to do whatever it takes for them to strengthen their actual currency. So again, in this particular situation, it's just my opinion, but I don't know how they're going to be able to issue bonds in dinars and compete with the dollar unless a rate change happens. Okay? Again, this is just speculation, but when I saw this, I thought very, very interesting. If you want people to really stop using the US dollar, start using the dinar, strengthen your currency, because that's what would happen. You see, the more they use the dinar, got away from the dollar, the stronger the dinar becomes. So that's what you want to see happen. So if you're going to issue bonds and give them an option between the dinar and the dollar, you need to make sure that whatever the rate is on the dinar, that it's competitive with the dollar, or else you're not going to get people wanting to purchase the bonds in dinars. Okay, so this is another interesting thing happening. The World Trade Organization session moving up. That's big. That's going to affect the dinar, in my opinion, The reform papers, the banking sector now making again more of a push to be independent. The other banks, not the Central Bank of Iraq. And again, adding more to the infrastructure is another big indicator that they're expecting some type of growth. In addition to that, these issuing of these bonds in two currencies, very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Think about what I said. If you had a choice between getting paid back in the dinar or the dollar, knowing that the dinar is as weak as it is, why would you choose the dinar? They're going to have to make a change. Okay, so they can be competitive. So I saw that. I thought this is very, very interesting. We'll see what happens. Okay, so that's a big as well. So down here, he just also said the Association of the Private Banks praises the reforms related to the banking sector, including in the white papers, praises the procedures of the Central Bank of Iraq that contribute continuously to support the private bank sector, which is necessary in order for the country to really develop. Their private banks are going to have to grow. They're going to have to be set up to be successful. The bonds is a good idea, but having it in two currency, man, that's very interesting. How can you do that with the dinar? That's the dinar is competitive. Alawi, through the white papers, we will reform the fiscal policy. So again, on here is talking about Alawi confirms on Friday that the finance minister, through the white papers, will reform the financial policies, monitor the change in the economy. Now we already know that they talked about on the white paper, and this is why I try to keep people grounded. We know they're going to discuss the rate change. We know this, but they didn't necessarily say it was going to change. Okay, or they didn't necessarily say what the change would be. We were just happy to see that they're at least talking about it. Now there definitely has to be some talk about the rate change, because I don't know how they're going to do this with these bonds. Alawi said during his attendance, what did I say? The banking sector is one of the most important sectors, and the state is working to support it in order to move the economy. Well, one of the ways you can move the economy is strengthen your currency. Give the people more purchasing power. They'll go out and they'll spend. That's what you want to do. The U.S. dollar's power seems to be, the power of the dollar is going to drop. Under the Biden administration, it's definitely going to drop. Okay? So again, it goes right down here. He said the Ministry of Finance is seeking to offer bonds worth $3 to $5 billion to citizens in the two currencies, the dinar or the dollar, expecting private and government banks to buy them. He pointed out that the exchange rate of the dinar against the dollar will be fixed when the bonds are issued in order to avoid any losses in the purchase of the bonds by banks and citizens. So the rate of the dinar against the dollar. So are they going to peg the value of the dinar against the US dollar? That could be what they do. So as the value of the dollar goes up and down, and then so does the rate of the dinar. In my opinion, they should let the dinar go free flow on the market so we could watch the market determine its value. The dollar is going to go down in value. That's going to hurt the dinar. It's going to crash. They need to keep from pegging themselves to the dollar. Yes, right now we see the dollar seems to somehow magically be more stronger than ever before, but recently we've seen the decline in the dollar, and it's been fairly steady lately. So very interesting. I think they need to change the rate. Okay. Iraq is now at the crossroads, and if the rapid reforms necessary to pull the country out of the crisis are not implemented, this crisis will worsen in the coming year and the years that follow. No, I think it's time. I think it's more than time. You're going to see them make a move. What that move is, we will see. Get down here, and Sauder saying that they do not aspire to govern, but what they want is the majority in parliament. Okay, and what they're saying is just basically, look, we want to be able to control parliament so they can control policies. And in their opinions, they're doing this because they want to fight corruption. Well, isn't that what everybody says? We want to fight corruption. But if your party has been part of the corruption for a long time, nobody could trust what you're saying. So that's what this whole article goes down to talk about, why it is they want to peacefully control the parliament in this election, and Sauder is motivating his followers to go out there and take part in the elections to do what they can so they would hold the majority of the parliament rule. All right, so that's what it's talking about in here. The constitutional amendments announce the end of all their work. Article 140 is a matter of controversy and will be decided under the dome of Parliament. So all of the amendments that need to be done to the Constitution have already been worked out. Now they just need to get them voted on and get them implemented. The one article, of course, as always, that's sticking is Article 140. This is the issue between Kurdistan and Baghdad. So most of this was supposed to have already been agreed on. That's why the deal between Erbil and Baghdad needs to be worked out, because in there is the dues and fees. That's part of the agreement, okay? Plus the salaries that's supposed to be paid over to Kurdistan. All that is in there. But the most importantly, the relocation of the displaced citizens is important. That's part of 140. So all of that is on there. The United Nations is happy about what they saw so far, but agree that Article 140 has to be worked out and it has to be amended, and they need to get it done immediately. But whatever, for the most part, all the changes that need to be done, it seems that the United Nations is pretty happy about that. Meanwhile, they sent more than one message to Baghdad. The Kurdish deputy specifies the conditions for resolving the outstanding financial crisis with the central government. It's nothing that we haven't already talked about before. They still have not gotten paid for some of their citizens, and so they're still going back and forth. But man, these people, every time we start to feel like they're making progress, something comes up and then causes an issue. Al-Qademi launches important financial pledges to the Kurdistan region. Again, I think Al-Qademi is a man of his word, but he can't just do things arbitrarily on his own. He's telling the people in Kurdistan he's ready to do this. Let's do this. But again, you got Parliament that's in his way. Al-Qademi said that it is convinced that the sums sent to finance salaries in the region are much less than their entitlements, and that there are people inside and outside Parliament who seek to put obstacles in the way of the work of the federal government. So that's like his version of the Democratic Party. Sorry, just kidding. But you know what I mean? He has resistance. That's the best way to put it. Look, Al-Qademi, just like here in the United States, there are people within our government that have the power to be resistant to the changes. And that's exactly what they're doing. I still think they should just go ahead and dissolve Parliament is really what they should do, and just let the three presidencies hammer out the agreements to get them done so we can get this finalized and over with. So nonetheless, that's it for now. I am encouraged by what I see. I'm not going to lie. Their accession into the world trade, them climbing faster, the banks doing what they can to be more independent, and they're, again, working on creating a stronger infrastructure. Really good news. Them talking about issuing the bonds in two currencies is very interesting to me. I just don't know how they're going to do that with a weak exchange rate. So that seems to be an indicator of some kind that we might see something happen pretty soon here as we get closer to the World Trade Organization or Iraq becoming a member. Let's see what that does here in the near future. So that's it for now, you guys. I was excited about the news. Again, it's just my opinion on it, but these are the things I was looking for prior to everything that's going on now, and they seem to be back on track. All right, so that's it for now. Let me know what you guys think. Hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. So this is looking good. All right, let me know what you think. I'll talk to you later.